Well, on the eve of that event, President Emmanuel Macron will give a televised address tonight to the armed forces, where he's expected to make some major announcements, according to the Élysée Palace. He'll be speaking just days after his army chief of staff said that Russia considers France to be its number one enemy in Europe. Our international affairs commentator, Doug Herbert, is with me in the studio to tell us more. So, Doug, what can we expect to hear in this address tonight?
Well, first of all, the Army Chief of Staff that you just cited, Thierry Burkhard, he stole Macron's thunder, right? It was quite a rare press conference, for sort of a chief of staff of the French military to come out there, call the journalists together and say, I just want you all to know that France is considered to be the public enemy number one for Russia, the worst, biggest threat to Russia in Europe. So that sort of sets the groundwork. What is Macron going to talk about tonight? Essentially, if I had to give a title, if I were a speechwriter for Macron, I would call this Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. And what I mean by that is now in the new military strategic review that Macron's going to lay out for the French nation. That is essentially the view of the world right now. It is a world with everywhere you turn, all at the same time, the threats just keep on coming. It's not just a single threat like during the Cold War. There's one sort of superpower seen as posing a big menace. It's everywhere. So whether we're talking about Vladimir Putin's imperialist, expansionist Russia raising a war, unprovoked war of aggression against a European country, against Ukraine right now, giant threat for France, the rise, obviously, of China in the Indo-Pacific area, the recent clashes between India and Pakistan, the new technologies, the hypersonic missiles, the cyber attacks, artificial intelligence attacks on the infrastructure, the cyber infrastructure of armies and government infrastructure. And also, lest we forget on the other side of the Atlantic, Donald Trump in his America First, MAGA America, essentially yanking the post-World War II security umbrella away from Europe. Not entirely abandoning it, right? Not saying goodbye, guys, but basically saying, you have to look out for yourselves. You can't count on us to be there to come running to us anymore to provide your security. And that's what he's going to be saying. He's basically going to say, we need to spend more. Yeah, we already do spend quite a bit on our military. I know you guys. I know that we're all under quite a lot of duress right now financially. France's economic condition is not good. We are a basket case of Europe right now, trying to get our act together. But we have to put that aside because they're two completely separate issues. We have to rearm our army. We have to have more weapons, more material, more men. We have to be able to meet the threats of the 21st century. Not one, not two, not three. Multiple threats coming at us all at once. He says it's really a responsibility. It's a tricky sell, not an easy sell. And I'll just say what's making it harder is the French military, Jenny, has already been seriously ramping up its military budget in the past 7 years. Since Macron came to power in 2017, we have had a nearly 50% increase in French military spending, about 46% increase. Last year alone, in the current budget, over 3 billion euros added to the budget for that year. It's right now at about 47 billion euros. Now, you raise your eyes and say, wow, that's a lot, isn't it? They really need more. Just to give you a sense, the United States, yes, far larger economy, military, everything, $886 billion for their military budget last year. So by that standard, France is not even nearly a tenth. It's like, what, a 20th, a 30th of France's of U.S. military spending. So they need to do more. They need to do it now. Clear and present threats, clear and present dangers have to separate our economic duress from the military threats all around us.
And just going back to that press conference by the French army chief, how credible is that warning from Thierry Burkhard that Russia sees France as its primary enemy in Europe?
It's credible. Not simply because the French army chief of staff is saying it, but essentially Vladimir Putin, if you listen to his own speeches, he has all but said he believes he sees NATO more largely as the giant existential threat to Russia. He sees NATO encroaching on Russia. NATO may be seen by the West as a defensive alliance, protecting itself from Russian incursions. Russia sees it just the opposite. And the whole Ukraine war, from Putin's perspective, is really aimed at undermining, destabilizing, weakening, if you will, Europe as a whole, but also, in a sense, pushing back NATO, weakening and undermining NATO. The threat is very credible because in Putin's world view, Absolutely. NATO and the West in general, and France in particular, because Macron has taken a very sort of stand-up position. He's come a long way since the day of the long table negotiations with Putin, when they were sitting there, and he was calling Putin again and again, trying to negotiate with him, trying to hear him out, really trying to have a rational dialogue with him. Those days are long gone. Macron has really stood up and been a very, very forceful proponent on the European stage for taking a very forceful posture towards a Russia that he sees as not just expansionist, but led by a man who is full of his own imperialistic hubris and will not back down at anything. So Europe has no chance but to defend itself. So when the Army Chief of Staff, Thierry Burkhard, says that Russia sees France as its number one enemy in Europe, it's very credible. It's very credible. I don't know if there's a ranking that Putin has on his wall of enemy 1, 2, 3, or 4, but it's plausible, put it that way. And the other thing he said, which also makes people sit up and take notice, is by 2030, 5 years from now, he sees Russia as being really on Europe's doorstep, a very credible threat of perhaps an incursion into EU and into NATO members, such as the front lines, Poland and the Baltic states. Those are all credible threats now being said publicly out loud by France's top military brass.
All right, Doug, thank you very much indeed.